All of the foundational models are releasing things at a pace that we've never seen before. The capabilities, they're not doubling in a year, they're doubling overnight. It's never been at a scale or speed like this.
Welcome to Demystifying Microsoft, a podcast by the Sourcepass Center of Excellence for Microsoft. We believe Microsoft shouldn't be hard. Each week, we break down what's changing across the Microsoft ecosystem, help you solve your toughest challenges, and provide clear, actionable advice to keep you ahead of the curve. If you're responsible for Microsoft decisions and want clarity without complexity, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Demystifying Microsoft podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Taylor, and today I'm excited to be joined by Chance Weaver. How you doing today, Chance?
I'm doing well. How are you, Nathan?
Can't complain. Excited to nerd out with you a little bit today. So we're going to jump into one of our favorite topics, which is AI, all things Microsoft AI and Copilot and all those things. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Chance?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to the conversation. It's always fun talking to you, Nathan. Chance Weaver, I am the VP of AI Adoption, the Global VP of AI Adoption for Pax8. My job is to help partners sell, implement, and monetize AI technology, obviously from the perspective of driving consumption through the Pax8 marketplace. Where I come from is I actually built an MSP out of Southern California, a very Microsoft-focused MSP. All of our clients were modern work and Azure. And when COVID hit our customer base, they just picked up and went home and didn't really see any of the disruption that a lot of companies were privy to during that time. And so because of that, I think we were very efficient. I ended up selling that business in 2021 to a large platform company. I wasn't planning on selling it. I really enjoyed running that business, and it was a profitable business. It was doing really well. I actually ended up selling it because I thought the story they were telling me was too good to be true. So going through the process, I never believed it was going to actually work out the way that it did. But everything they told me was true, and I couldn't be happier with the decision. It was great for my team, great for the business, and that business is strong and running well today. So because of what I had done for that business, the platform had asked me to move up and run the Microsoft practice and AI strategy for them from a Microsoft perspective. They wanted me to teach all of their acquisitions how to do what we did. I think we were the 11th acquisition. When I left that business in December of 24, they were 39 acquisitions, and I think they're north of 50 now. Large and growing business and a great group of people. I enjoy working with them, but I had a date in mind where I was going to retire. And so I did. I said goodbye to everybody and I left, and that lasted for all of 5 months. I've known the leadership team at Pax8 for a long time. My business was an early Pax8 partner. And so when they called with this opportunity, I was really excited to take advantage of it. And I've been at Pax8 for a year now, and I've had a lot of fun working with people like you.
Yeah. Tell us some more about your role at Pax8. What are you doing at Pax8? What does the day in your job look like?
My days are all over the place. It's funny. I came back thinking this will be a difficult job. I had no idea what I was getting into. I'm working harder than I've ever worked before and probably for less money, but I love it. I'm having a great time, great people to work with, and I get to interact with the channel, with the partner community, which was near and dear to my heart. So a day in my life is working with partners, trying to determine what they're doing, getting them connected up to the right people in our organization to help them implement AI technology for themselves and for their customers. Working with different groups that we built out inside of Pax8. Your group is part of the innovation group, the top tier of partners that are involved in some of these really exciting AI initiatives and AI builds that we're working on doing. I'm involved on that. We built out the MIP program, which is helping to teach partners how to have those deeper conversations and have business conversations with their customers to start understanding where the opportunity to implement technology really lies, using the partners like Sourcepass that have been so integral with their partnership with Pax8 to help us build out those programs for the rest of the partner community. And I could go on and on. There's all kinds of things from community, getting involved, speaking at events all over the country, all over the world. I'm global now. So they have me going to EMEA sometimes at APAC. I was in Australia just before Beyond, speaking at a couple of events. A day in my life is complicated and busy, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's complicated and busy without the insane pace of AI innovation. I am consistently, absolutely gobsmacked by how quickly it's moving and how quickly some of these large corporations are moving. Microsoft's a very forward-thinking, agile company, but the speed at which they are deploying some of these capabilities that they're getting access to is staggering to me. I think a good example is Cowork came out in February, March. Claude released their Cowork product and it exploded. Everyone was like, you have to use this. And all the people on Claude were using it immediately and doing incredible things with it. And I thought, oh man, when are we going to get capabilities like that in the Microsoft space? The month later, they had it. And I was stunned that like, hey, Microsoft adopted Claude's code cowork product, cleaned it up and simplified it for the Copilot space and deployed it to us. And then I think the most recent thing is Microsoft Scout. They took OpenClaw and put it into the ecosystem. I'm just staggered by how quickly Microsoft's moving, but the industry as a whole. I feel like every week Anthropic's announcing something else. You're like, holy smokes, that's insane. That didn't exist a month ago. And now it's available. It's stunning.
All of the foundational models are releasing things at a pace that we've never seen before. I used to talk about how what drove me into IT, my degree's in electronic engineering. Believe it or not, it has zero to do with information technology. But what drove me into IT was, wow, change is so fast. You're constantly learning. You have to constantly keep up on the latest and greatest trends. This is insane. It's never been at a scale or speed like this. The capabilities, they're not doubling in a year, they're doubling overnight. And the releases and the different models and what a model can do today, and then trying to understand which models are best for which tasks. And then now being able to build agents that actually can do things and interact. And you talk about Scout, it's OpenClaw. It actually interacts with your desktop and can run tasks on your desktop for you. It's amazing. It's fun to be a part of. It's an exciting time to exist.
It sure is. And it's wild to see people who are really taking advantage of it. I know a couple of people starting up businesses and they are writing code and building websites and deploying code and going from proof of concept, like mental proof of concept, to a product they can demo in like 6 weeks. And the product looks amazing. It looks like something a team would have had to spend 3 or 4 years building. And they've done it in 6 weeks. And they got OpenClaw machines running all their testing and their deployment and their updates. And like, it's just stunning to me how quickly people can accomplish things when they're leveraging these tools too. It's just insane.
Our VP of AI adoption, I'm sure you know Eric Bank, amazingly smart individual. On the flight over to Beyond, he coded a demo of a complete integration between some of the managed intelligence services that we're building out in the MIP program and a partner-facing dashboard of how they could interact and automatically order these services. And it pops them right into the... he did this in an hour and a half on the flight using Claude Code. He built out this entire demo that was written in the code base that the marketplace is written in. So theoretically, this could plug and play into the marketplace. But he was able to build out a working demo based on that code. It's just unbelievable what you can do today.
Yeah, it's wild. I sometimes feel a little bit of FOMO. Like, I got a day job. I don't get to play with AI all day, right? I'm like you. I'm busy doing other things. And I try to use AI when I can, but I got meetings to be in and decisions to make. And AI is a smaller portion of my day than I would like it to be. But there are times I'm watching these people do this stuff and go, man, I wish I could be playing. I'm missing out on all the cool stuff they're doing because it's wild how quickly it's moving.
You got to stay up later. I mean, I was up until 2 a.m. building founder agents last night.
That's amazing. That may be the answer. What are you seeing take hold on the AI front in small business? Where are you seeing people have real world wins in the small business space with AI?
It's all across the board, and it really depends on the type of conversations that your partners are having. We've seen some incredible deployments that have solved real big problems for companies. We've seen a logistics company. They had a system where they would track all of their deliveries and things like that. And there was a manual process when there was changes because they had multiple systems to like put all of this information in. And then that information of the changes had to get out to the right individuals based on which system they were using. All of that was solved with a couple of agents that they could interact with and get all of the information real time on exactly what they're trying to do. And they could do it on their phone. And that solved multiple people hours of menial work that nobody enjoyed doing, taking that all out of the equation, centralizing all that data in one place and being able to write back to all those systems real time when changes happen and then get that information out to the right people. It's just one of a million different examples of agents solving real world problems. And I like to say like 9 times out of 10, it's not an agentic solution. A lot of times you're talking just workflow automation or business intelligence to solve some of these business problems. The conversation's the same. And I think that now those conversations are becoming deeper and more meaningful. And we're, as partners, and we see it with Sourcepass, having a meaningful impact with their customers and being able to solve real business problems. It's a completely different type of relationships than historically MSPs had with their customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's interesting too. Like, AI is going to fix all the things. Let's AI all the things. That's not real or practical, right? You've got to find those use cases, but when you do find them, they're powerful and what they can do for people. But it is a learning curve as a service provider, trying to help people boil down those scenarios and find the scenarios where AI does help and it's achievable. It's got the right boundaries around it. And maybe you iterate it to be something bigger in the future, but finding that project that you can kind of dial in to deliver an outcome and see where that goes seems to be a key step.
Well, one of the things I think is really interesting to that point, everyone is so busy, and technology, I think, has made us even more busy than we were before. And so if you go to an SMB and you say, hey, what are the problems in your business? Maybe they know, but a lot of times you're like, I don't know. Like my head's down just trying to get stuff done on a day-to-day basis. So being able to have the conversations to help identify that or teach them a little bit about AI, I think this is incredibly powerful. One of the things that we did at PAX 8, this was an amazing story. So before Beyond, Lane Brannon, who runs the America region, he's the general manager of the America region, came to me and he was like, what have you been doing with AI? Tell me some of the cool things that you've done. I said, one of the things I did is I built a chief of staff agent because I work across all of these different functions globally for PAX 8 that could surface anything that I wasn't aware of that might be a roadblock to the AI projects that I'm working on for partners. And I have that surfaced up to me every day with exactly who created that blocker, what the potential blocker is, and who I need to talk to make sure I get out in front of it. And I call it my chief of staff agent. Like it's the one running down problems and surfacing them to me before they become a problem. And he was just blown away. He's like, how do I get that for me? And so what I did is I got with a couple of people in our organization. We put together a curriculum for the whole America leadership team. And they went through a 4-week course of building their own chief of staff agent. And the agent was different for each one of their job functions. So they had to go through and identify how they do their job, where they needed some help, where they were like really bleeding menial tasks and menial time, and where these agents can help them the most. But by going through this process, understanding how to aggregate the data, how to ground the agent to make sure you're getting the correct types of responses, what you really wanted to do for you for a process, it changed the way that they have conversations about the business. So this is a workshop that we put together in the MIP program. And this is something that our partners have full capability. It's a workshop you can give to your internal teams to help teach them about AI, and customers can take advantage of this as well. Going through a process like that gives you a deeper understanding of AI, but even better, you're able to start applying that. Oh, well, we do have this problem and maybe AI is a fit, or maybe we need to think about how we can automate part of this workflow. So that was a lights on moment, I think, for our company. And we've started running entire teams through that exercise, and it's been impactful.
That's really cool. That's the kind of stuff I think we all have to start sharing is like, what problem did you solve and how did you get there? Because I struggle with this is getting my brain thinking in those terms, like how to identify problems and give them to AI to solve. It's a paradigm shift that we have to learn how to navigate. So that sounds incredible. I'm looking forward to taking advantage of some of those resources you have. You know, the challenge I think we have is the proliferation of products. And obviously, we're the Microsoft Demystifying Microsoft show here. We're very Microsoft centric. But even in the Microsoft ecosystem, it's hard to keep up with some of the products. So tell me some of the Microsoft products you use every day and how you're using them and how you think about them from an AI perspective.
That agent that I built was in Copilot Studio. That was an agent that I built inside of Copilot Studio. At the time, I had only been at PAX 8 for maybe 6 months. And that's all I had access to. I didn't have access to any of the advanced tools. There's a huge, long process. Everybody's trying to figure this out. What can we deploy safely? How can we keep our data safe? How can we prevent data bleed? There's all of these different things that you have to think about as you're rolling out AI. And that's where these partner relationships with companies like Sourcepass are so important, because a lot of times the customer doesn't know. And you upload something to Anthropic, unless you have an enterprise license, under their agreement, they own it as IP. So do you really want to be uploading some of your IP or important business financial information to Anthropic? No. But people are doing it left and right because they don't know any better. So from a Microsoft standpoint, I built it in Copilot Studio, but then they released Copilot Cowork, and I was able to do the same thing in Copilot Cowork without the hours and hours I had to put into building that agent. Copilot Cowork, I built a couple of prompts that did the same thing for me, and I just set it up as reoccurring prompts, and it was much easier to do. To give you an idea of how quickly it advances, I spent all this work building an agent, and then they come up with something that does it better than the agent that I built. And then if you want to get really advanced, and if you want to actually start doing a little bit of coding, or if you need agent to agent interactions, that's where you move up the stack and you're working in Foundry. And then you have obviously SharePoint, you can store data in. You have Purview where you can manage that. But if you're trying to pull data from different places, and especially if it's unstructured data, things like Fabric, there's so many different tools inside of the Microsoft ecosystem you can use, from data governance and data protection, and then automation, business intelligence, then actual AI. It can be confusing. It can be complicated, but I think Copilot Studio is the low-lying fruit. I think there's a lot of cool things you can do there at the early stages. And then that helps you understand, and you start to get to some of those more advanced tools, what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think of Copilot itself as responsive. It does what you ask it to do. Hey, summarize this, or help me figure out this. Co-work is a little bit more in the automated sense of like you can have it do multi-step tasks or scheduled tasks. And of course, we've got Scout that was just announced a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft Scout, which is Microsoft's implementation of OpenClaw. And that looks to be even more like, hey, it's always on, running processes, automating things, an agent doing multiple tasks for you. And I know a lot of people doing that are using it to automate business processes and personal processes. So it's interesting that we get these additional layers of tools, but it's also confusing as a consumer to keep up with what tool is out there and how do I use it. As you talked about, corporate IT policies about what you're allowed to use. We certainly wrestle with that at times internally of like, I haven't gotten Scout approved yet, and I understand why. There's a lot of variables there. So we're working through those things. And licensing and costs, right? Copilot for Microsoft 365 is 20 or 30 bucks a month, depending on if it's business or enterprise. It covers a lot of cool stuff. Co-work in Copilot is now a consumption-based product. So you're paying for tokens. It doesn't have a bucket of tokens.
Penny a token.
A penny a token. You got a new paradigm to say how many tokens it's going to take, how many tokens am I budgeted for my co-work tasks that I'm doing. And then you throw something like Scout on top of that. Well, Scout requires you to be in the Frontier program with Microsoft, but you also have to have a GitHub account because it's using the GitHub token consumption. We do have this complexity of agents and Scout and co-work and Copilot and Foundry, and it's a lot. It can be a lot to keep up with and to understand. There's just a lot of moving parts. And so I think it's interesting that Microsoft came out with Agent 365. Seems to be they're trying to get ahead of this a lot on the agent side, but that we're going to give you as much visibility into the sprawl of AI things across your company. What's your thoughts on Agent 365 so far?
I think there's two sides to Agent 365 that are exciting. And then I'll talk a little bit about the pricing model that is confusing, which is not un Microsoft-like, right? A lot of their clients have their data in the Microsoft ecosystem already.
Enterprise data protection.
So that solves a lot of that problem. You were able to deploy agents. If you had a Copilot license, you could build as many agents as you want that ran as you. Well, here's the problem. If an agent goes out and does something wrong, if you set it up to do something autonomously, it does it as you. So that's not a good thing. Like having that kind of control. And was it really you or was it the agent that did it? But all we know is that Nathan's identity is the one who made that change. Nathan's identity is the one who sent out that email. Was it the agent or was it Nathan? Agent 365 being able to bring agent identity. So having an identity for an agent, being able to track that identity, have full audit capability in everything that agent touches is incredibly powerful. It solves a lot of those, what do we do from a security standpoint from an agent? It also gives partners a way to manage agents for clients in a way that they would have difficulty doing before. If the agents are all spun up underneath a user's identity, what are you really managing? You know what I mean? And do you have any control or value you can bring? With agent identity, you have the audit capability. You have the ability to go in and make sure the agent is doing what it's supposed to do. Is it performing the way it's supposed to perform? Making sure that the lifecycle management is happening on that agent. All of the things you need to do from an agent management standpoint, you now have the ability to do that because it has its own identity and you don't have to mess with the user to be able to go in and do those things. So that's one thing I think is incredibly powerful at Agent 365. Obviously, the surface area to be able to have visibility and the management of all of that is super powerful. And then right now, Agent 365, to do some of the higher level agent to agent interactions, you have to have an Agent 365 license, which makes it very complicated the way that they rolled out the licensing. And to your point, I don't think it's SMB friendly. In our conversation with Microsoft, it seems like they're aware of that. And this isn't uncommon where they roll out a licensing structure, they fall on their face, and then 3 to 6 months later, they're redoing that licensing structure. I think we're going to see something very similar with Agent 365. Technology, amazing, super powerful, love it. Licensing, not so much.
Yeah, it's tough to justify on a $22 business premium account. Fine, I can add $20 for Copilot, and $15 for the security suite, for Defender Suite, Purview Suite. It's doing a ton more than AI. Okay, $15 just to manage agents just is a tough sell right now. I think it's just tough. And I'm curious if they'll have a tenant license or a premium sort of model where you get a license to people creating the agents or managing them, but the users don't need that same license. I'm very curious to see where that settles. But it is cool how Agent 365 does unlock that observability, that governance, that security on agents. And it's a whole area we're going to have to really figure out. Chance, it's been a lot of fun nerding out on this stuff. I'm sure we could go for another couple of hours. There's so much going on, but it's fun to pick your brain. And I always learn a little bit every time we chat. And today I definitely learned a few things. So thank you for your time today. Big shout out to Pax8 as a whole, one of our key partners. We drive a lot of our business through that team and they add a lot of value for us. And I think make us a better service provider and help our customers have a better experience. We love Pax8 and we're grateful for all of you who are listening to the podcast today. This has been another episode of the Demystifying Microsoft podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and we look forward to talking to you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Demystifying Microsoft, brought to you by the Sourcepass Center of Excellence for Microsoft. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen so you don't miss an episode. If you would like to talk to one of our Microsoft problem solvers, click on the link in the episode description or contact our team at sourcepassmcoe.com. Thank you.